Illo, we concluded the last segment talking about the notion of humanitarianism, and I didn't quite understand all of your points on that, especially as it relates to the decline or to the resumption of the ascendancy of Western culture. Humanitarianism has two senses or two meanings at least. One is caring for other people and helping them, but it also has the sense of a diminishment of the need for a God and an elevation of humankind. Are you speaking of both meanings, or tell me a little more of what your thoughts are on that?
Well, whenever one asks questions about a given concept, I always like to do what I call a proto-philological return to the sources. The word humanitarian, where does it come from? Human. It comes from the Latin word humanitas. Now, this Latin word humanitas is pregnant with meaning. And there again, it is a word that is used by Cicero, who filters through the Latin language what the Greeks called paideia.
And that led me to the inquiry
Exactly.
over whether you simply meant we ought to be helping each other more, or whether it was a movement more toward a secular society.
Well, I think that we should be helping each other more. If I'm living here in my nice neighborhood, and we're all living in a nice neighborhood, and a tornado comes, and the big tree, the big beautiful 300, 500-year oak tree on the street falls on my neighbor's house, I must not be indifferent to that. Then there is a humanitarian dimension that should loom up in my soul and say, I cannot sit here and be indifferent to that.
And is this transition we're going through an indication that we have lost that?
I don't think we have lost it, but we all have tendency to be lulled and to sort of be lulled asleep into a humanitarian sleep by comfort. By comfort.
I have another area that I'd like to discuss a little bit with you as well, if I could.
Yes, of course.
Moving from this topic. You speak in terms of civilization management and civilization development, as if civilization is something that is created by man and not simply an outcome of a whole series of other activities. And I wanted to understand a little bit better what your view was on how civilizations emerge and maintain themselves.
Yes, of course. I've observed, this is my humble opinion, that once an institution or a civilization or a city or a club or an association comes into its own, it has a life of its own. And it almost, one could even say that it becomes an organism of its own and has a mind of its own.
So, I'm puzzled then how one manages such a thing.
Well,
it sounds like I'm trying to manage my cat who has a mind of its own.
That's right. Sure. Well, you have to manage the very thing that you created.
I see. So it has a mind of its own, but it's manageable?
But it is manageable.
I got you. Okay.
And sometimes you have to make amendments to it. You have to make adaptations to it. Sometimes you have to readapt and readjust the very same thing that you created.
Now, we discussed earlier the decline in liberal arts at the university level, the decline in the teaching of liberal arts.
Now, there I agree with you. There is a decline.
Okay. Let me.
One can observe a decline.
Good, good. And we also agreed, even before that, I believe, that it was those who know liberal arts the best who manage civilization the best.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
So
if we understand by liberal arts the vocation of the protection and the safeguard of the tangible and intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Okay. In other words, we're not talking about the sevenfold canon of the liberal arts of mathematics and music, geometry, astronomy, grammar, logic, dialectics, and rhetoric. We're talking about the fundamental liberal arts.
Yes.
The fundamental liberal arts. The liberal arts, and I allow myself to open this rapid parentheses, linguistic parentheses, comes from eleftheri techne in Greek, which means the freed disciplines or arts. And this means actually in the Greek culture, the arts or the disciplines that you learn in school which are worthy of a free citizen. And this as opposed to a vanafsi techni, which are arts which are practiced by artisans and farmers and so forth, which are absolutely absolutely worthy
Yes.
of our respect and admiration,
Yes.
but they were not considered necessarily. For example, a goldsmith was a part of these.
No, please, I understand the difference between techne and arete.
Yes,
I
of
understand
course,
those.
of course.
And the point I was trying to get your opinion on this was, if there's a decline in the teaching of arete or in the liberal arts, and if civilization is managed by those whose vocation it is, by training in those to manage civilization, I'm trying to get an understanding of what the implication of a mismanagement or a poor management of civilization is. Is it a decline in civilization, or is it a change in civilization? This is what the point I was trying to get to.
I'm not going to be a stickler concerning the word decline. There are periods of decline.
Well, speak to the implications of poor management of civilization.
Sure. I like that. I like that.
Okay, I knew we could get there.
I like that very much. In the book of Genesis, during the creation story, which is an extraordinary story, it is said that after the creation, God said to man and woman, take the earth and have dominion over it. I've often wondered what actually did that mean. And finally, in the last few years, I've been reflecting on this concept. Actually, what was being said, take the earth and exercise wise cognitive management over this civilization that I just created for you.